working hard and I'm doing this and I'm at home with the kid. Everybody's just trying to win.
Okay. Okay. So what are then the components of a healthy relationship?
There are several. So that's like a $64 million question, but I'm gonna have it's gonna be bestseller. It's gonna be called components. But definitely some of them, one fundamental aspect I would say is the respect. We're not really going to get off the ground without the respect, because it's going to cause resentment. It's going to cause feelings of malice. It's going to be a cause of conflict when there's disrespect. I think that it's really important that people have a code. How do you deal with conflict is key, because there's going to be disagreement. How you deal with conflict, you come back stronger. There's this Japanese vase that this culture of when a vase is broken and they use gold to repair it. And it's every fracture or every crack is joined back by gold, and it's almost as if from the fracture it comes back stronger. And it's a good metaphor for relationship. You know, the ability in a relationship to rebuild. How do you come back from conflict, because it's inevitable? So I think that's the respect, how you deal with conflict, and I think the ability to be silly and not take each other too seriously.
Okay.
You have to be able to laugh with your best friend. You know, you have to be able to laugh with your best friend. But yeah, the thing, there's something about conflict as well, and I want to highlight this. This is when there are children in the marriage, in the relationship. This is really significant and really important that the couple maintain that bond, because the children are from that bond, right? Or or if it's a step parent, but it's still a parent, parent, but parent nonetheless. So a certain level of respect for it to work as a system. They need to respect each other in front of the children, and certain things shouldn't be shared in front of children. Certain conflict and difference is not the concerns of children. You are. Where's my dad's soul? But when it came, my mom and dad were married, and certain conflict is not my business. It's not for me to have an opinion of I'm riding with mom on this one, or I think that it's not my business. It doesn't concern. I'm a child of this union, and so I'm not even supposed to know it. In fact, the way that the elders operated, there was many things that you didn't really know about.
It used to be that way. They couldn't even be in the room at the time, and now everything is just so exposed to the children, the youth. You know.
Because it can become a problem. I know it's there's different reasons why this happens, but just I'm going to give you a random scenario of a mom who is having conflict with her husband, but sometimes through frustration, she may things seep out to the children, or she may mention things to the children about the dad, or, you know, your dad hasn't done X and Y and Z and A and B and C. So his masculine authoritative image is kind of like chiseled away, right? And mom sometimes weaponizes the kids or seeks comfort in the kids and sharing certain information with the kids, and there's this friendship with the children, should I say, with the children. But when there's a crisis, and now mom says, you know, the wife says, hey, this is what's going on with the children. Your son has done this, or your daughter's, you know, I need you to go and speak to her. His credit, you spent all his credit. He's got no credibility, but now you want him to sail in and save the day.
When you already dissolved the respect.
Exactly. So this loose lips sinking ships is a reality.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to be, and it can work in the opposite as well. But there's something about, I'm going to come back to feminism, this kind of like undermining of masculinity and masculine archetypes, and then but not really thinking of the long term, the big game consequence. You know, he's annoying. He's doing certain things that's rubbing me the wrong way. Right, as the mom is thinking that, and that's fine, and she's entitled to feel that way, and she's entitled to confront him at the right time and to challenge him and to hold him accountable. He's not beyond nobody's above being held accountable, you know, and call him on his integrity. Say you're out of integrity. You know, you said you was going to do A, B, and C, but I ain't really seeing this, so I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm not gonna chew you out, but I'm gonna challenge you and be your better half to you know, inspire you to be the better version of yourself, right?
Right.
We have conversations, yeah. But there's a way of doing that and not allowing your frustration to get the better of you, or it can come back, it can come back in a different way in the whole family dynamic. So that's something that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I answered your question in a bit of a long way, but I hope I
No, you answered it. You answered it. And so then to develop that a little bit, these components that you gave, because you said respect, laugh, don't argue in front of the children, different things like that. Now, are these the components that bond or bind the couple together, or are these just the things to help maintain the relationship? Is there a difference between what glues you and what helps you maintain that structure and that, composition and that cohesiveness?
Oh, okay. No, I mean, those what I mentioned, I think those are somewhat interchangeable, but if you're talking about the things that bind, then I would have to add the intimacy as super important. I might have to put it at the top of the pyramid. And yeah, I would put that at the top of the pyramid. That needs to be addressed and not taken lightly, because it means different. It can mean different things to different people, but then you need to be on the same page. You need to be able to meet each other's needs, and that doesn't. When I was saying intimacy, I mean intimacy in the wider sense. So sexual intimacy, absolutely, that erotic journey and fantasy, physicality, yes, that part, but also the spiritual element of intimacy and the psychological, that connection and that thing which is, it may be non-physical, but it's sexy. The way the wife speaks to the husband or uses her voice in a certain tone, or the man speaks to his missus, right, his wife, and they may not be physical. He might be halfway across the country, but there's something about that late night call or that message or that emoji that it sends that charge. That makes it that can't be underestimated. It shouldn't be underestimated. It cannot be overestimated. It's very, very important. That really gives synchronicity to the relationship, real synchronicity.
Now, in addition to that, right, because you're saying that's what really brings you together and to keep you two stimulated and great. Now, what about sex being weaponized? Because you've sat down with many couples, right? I don't know how it is there. I know in the US and many different places. I just want from your perspective on the people that you've coached. Have you seen that has sex been weaponized a lot from the female's perspective, withholding and proving a point, and I really don't want to do that. How has sex been weaponized from your perspective?
Yes, that's a classic. Sometimes females go into their shell, and it's almost as if you're a good boy, so unfortunate, but yeah, if you're a good boy, then I may peel off a little piece, like almost like a level of duty, like a favor, and that's when it's really sad, because both men and women have erotic desires, right? And so I don't know if it's something cultural. I don't know if it's something to do with having children. There might be different aspects or different different factors which create that. But yeah, sometimes sex can be weaponized. But unlike a stereotype, it can be the other way around, and it can leave women feeling undesired. I think men who are starved for sex from their wives and they want to be monogamous, they can feel punished, they can feel rejected, they can feel belittled. But likewise, on the converse, women, if they're not desired by the man in their life, and feel he wants them, and meaning wants them sexually, and likewise they aren't pursued, it can sometimes, that can actually mess with a woman's self-esteem. And then you've got all the other things, because there's more pressure on women in terms of the physical, physical aspects of, having children and body changing and body weight. And then all of the billboards and imagery is 90% what the woman looks like. Men can be valued for their competency. Men can be sexy if they look like Quasimodo, but they have bars or something like that. They know how to speak to a woman, or they're chivalrous, or there's other things they bring to or a wallet, or whatever the case may be, status. There's other things that a man can muster up to make himself sexually appealing to women, outside of just being having a six-pack and being, having a good height and a jawbone. Whereas a woman is really more kind of locked into her physical. Is she voluptuous,
Physical.
or is she this type of figure, or does she look this type of way? So, you know, if the man doesn't desire her and pursue her, or make her feel that way, right? It can affect her self. It can actually affect her self-esteem.
Okay. Okay. Now I want to flip the coin, right? And we're going to go to a whole other side of everything. So, what role would you say that religion plays in relationships from what you observed, right? Because a lot of times I think this preconceived notion that, you know, because of my faith, that we don't deal with these type of problems. So I want to know, you know, that, you know, we say, hey, no, not that brother, not that sister, that's impossible. No, this is you know, a Muslima, this is a Christian, a man of faith, a woman of purpose, etc. Right? So with all of these titles that we get, what role does religion play in a relationship? Do you see a difference in faith-based couples or marriages?
Yeah, I do. I would say so. I do a lot of work in the Islamic community, but I work with couples from various backgrounds, and yeah, religion is sometimes informing the story, or sometimes it's the other way around. I think sometimes it's as people, we have our wants, our desires, our preferences, our likes, our dislikes, but then we might codify it or try to qualify it based on, you know, because the Bible says this. But really, I came to that conclusion, or that I'm trying to use the Bible or the scripture or whatever, you know, whatever religious philosophy is, to kind of like direct and play out where my where I'm really coming from. So I'm not sure if I can say it's religion causing people to be this way. I'm always suspicious about that. I'm always suspicious when, you know, I'm puritanical, and for this reason, as a modest Muslim, I don't want to put it out there. Whereas I'm like, is that you having that sexually repressed aspect to yourself, but then you're utilizing a scripture or an injunction to really cover what's really coming from you,
to shield it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So I think there is that going on. I do research sometimes and looking into other communities, for example. I know that the Jewish community in the UK, for example, with different people from different faith backgrounds, divorce, relationship fracture, challenges, even the most orthodox of orthodox Muslim aspects of the Muslim community, Christians are like, you know, the divorce rate in this country is really hitting different pockets of society, working class people, Black people, white people, right, Asian people. However, the Orthodox Jewish community, they really kind of an anomaly. They're holding the fort in that respect, you know, and holding families intact. And so that's always made me a bit curious to find out a bit more about some of the institutions or ideas that they have. That's kind of like, you know, what's going on. You know, it makes you to find out more. And they're not exactly
how to carry it out in that
their business on Broad Street, right? Publishing articles and, you know, putting stuff out there in the psychological research papers for you to just know what's going on. So I'm always interested in that. How are they doing that in this perilous time? How are they managing that? What's going on?
Right. Yes, that's true. Very interesting. We got to do comparative studies. And so then I want to follow that same train of thought, if that's okay. And because there's an old adage that love is blind, right? So in your professional career or personal, what have you seen when it comes to what they would call blended families? Is there a difference when you counsel or when you speak to those type of couples that come from two different cultural backgrounds?
When you say cultures, could you elaborate, Queen?
Well, you may have an African, and then you may have a Caucasian. You may have someone who, you know, I'm asking people of different. Yes, you got me.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I'm with you. Yeah.
Different races. How
in the UK we got in the UK we have a lot of that. We have a lot. I think it's, from what I've observed, it's a reality that there is an aspect of, it's like how can I put it? There's like a continuum, And I think from what people I've interacted with, people I've heard, heard their story, people I've just know in a friendship circle or colleagues or whatever the case may be, my take is that you will have people in mixed relationships, for example, particularly when it comes to Black and white, and particularly when it comes to Black men and white women. And there's a level of genuineness and richness to their relationship, and it really is people meeting at a human level, but they just, she just happens to be a white woman, but she just likes this guy, and he just happens to be a Black guy, and he fancies this, he's just attracted to this woman, right? And he just likes her as a person, he's attracted to her, so on and so forth. There's that end of the scale, but at the other extreme, there is fetishization and objectification and the Black and the whiteness of it all, and the colonial past and the transatlantic slave trade and all the stereotypes. It's all alive and all part of that dynamic as well. So sometimes I hear people say, I don't see color, color doesn't matter. And I'm like, sometimes it really does.
It really does.
Sometimes it really does. And there's a lot more going on related to color and that sexual fantasies relate where color is a part of that makeup. But then some people might say, oh, it's insincere and it's all about color. And I'm like, I'm not so sure, because I've seen where my impression, my spiritual perception tells me there's a lot more going on than, it's just some kind of physical fetish sort of fantasies of snow and chocolate. You know what I mean? There's a lot more going on.
So that leads me then to this, and you can kind of develop on it a little more if you don't mind. And I know you're new to the Vantage point. I don't know if you've seen, but we like to ask the truth card question, or what people like to call the wild card. It's nothing crazy, but we're a truth-based podcast that we feel like it's very important to bring pertinent information to our people. And so with the question about different races or interracial marriages, etc., how, coming from a place of slavery, right, to where we are now, all the things that has happened, all the things that is still happening, what is going on psychologically that allows a person of color to see it as being okay, to see it as being, this loving relationship with what can be considered to be the oppressor? Because we got the image of the oppressor in our mind from, just through lines and lines of genealogy, right? And then we also have what is still happening today, because we distance it as if it was something of the past, but it's still occurring today. People getting shot every day, people, just a massacre, right? So with all of this that is happening, what is going on psychologically to make it acceptable for a person of color to engage in that type of relationship?
Yeah, I think you have both camps. You have the camp of, I'm an individual, I'm on this journey, and I only have one shot, right? On this thing we call life. I'm only going in one direction. And should I like somebody or desire somebody from whatever race or however the circumstances is, I'm going to do that because I'm an individual. I'm not thinking on a group level. I'm not thinking about what this means socio-historically, psychosocially, socio-economically. I've got no allegiance other than to my happiness. Yeah, you have those people. You have mercenaries, psychologically, are mercenaries where it's as if, and this is what the one that really sticks in my throat. This is the one that gives me a lot of difficulty to contest with, even as a professional. You have some brilliant Black brothers. And when I say brilliant, I mean in the sense they're gifted in a particular way, intellectually, business acumen, or they have a particular craft, whether it's a sport or an art form. They can sing, they can dance, whatever it is, they can act. And they've maybe consciously or unconsciously, but it seems, I've used the word mercenary, that to navigate this white dominated space and in these institutions, if I have somebody from the dominant culture on my arm as a man, it allows me to go to the next level. Then if I had a queen by my side that looked like me, I might only get to to the 5th floor. But if it's a building with 6 floors, I can get to the penthouse if I have somebody from the dominant culture on my arm. And I'm not sure if they make this consciously or unconsciously, but there's something going on a psychological level which makes me use the term mercenary. And the reason why I find that difficult to contest with is because it's as if we have a brain drain, for want of a better